Hello, everyone. I'm happy to present and defend my thesis, corporate brand and corporate social responsibility, which I defended in March 2026. My research had two essays, a systematic literature review of corporate brand and corporate social responsibility in India. So what do we refer to as corporate brand? Corporate brand is a company brand. So it might have, for example, Coca-Cola in India is Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages, which has various brands underneath it. And similarly, Marico has Parachute, Saffola, and Marico and Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages are the corporate brand. Tata Steel is a single corporate brand called with the branded house strategy, and each of these promote these days even brands with like Coca-Cola and Marico have started promoting their corporate brand. So how did we do this? We reviewed 257 articles on corporate brand from leading journals from the period 1990 to 2024. And we discovered that contributions came from all different domains and disciplines like tourism, hospitality, retail, human resources, strategy management, operations management, etc. So it wasn't just marketing domain dominated. So most of the research was from the West. It was mainly USA and West Europe dominant. There was a bit of representation of Asia and Africa, but this could be further improved. A lot of stakeholders, segments like suppliers, community members, employees, customers were represented, but we felt that some of the other segments, critical segments like NGOs, social activists, and media could be further represented better. In terms of departments, we felt a lot of research covered most of the departments, including marketing, but other departments like production, operations, and service delivery, R&D, and legal could be covered, where academia could make a difference in terms of build a case for the role of corporate brand in these departments. At the macro level perspective, we started looking at sustainable development goals and how could companies invest in that or build a case for the role of corporate brand in investing in these and improving the corporate brand. Currently, only about 6 different sustainable development goals have been covered somewhat in academia. There's an opportunity to represent these other SDGs and help companies understand what is the benefit of investing in these and how this will improve the corporate brand. So we therefore look at addressing this in our next essay, where we look at the benefits of investing in CSR, in corporate social responsibility programs in India, and how does it impact the company's performance. So at the chrono level perspective, where we look at by time, we felt that 2 stages, which are the decline and renewal or death, were stages which could have been represented better, and more research could be done to understand the role of corporate brand at these. Currently, only the growth, birth, and maturity stages are overrepresented in the corporate brand. So what this meant for us is that the corporate brand domain moves across different stages, similar to the double diamond framework, which is used in design research workshops. In design research workshops, the stages move through different stages. The first workshop stage is the discover stage, where we make a list of all problems which are spoken about, and we make a kitchen list of that, which is the divergent thinking phase. We move to the next stage after the discover phase, which is the explore define stage. Here we take only the top 5 or 6 addressable problems that we listed on from the discover phase, when here we call it the explore define phase, which is a convergent phase. We then move to the next stage, which is the problem definition phase, and here we borrow learnings from different inspirations. Could be Microsoft, could be Apple, could be Starbucks, or could be Toyota, for example, and we develop prototypes which are solutions to address these problems, and these different prototypes are then tested across consumers, and then we move to the last stage, which is deliver and listen. So based on their feedback, we come out with 1 or 2 solutions which are the best of all these, and we deliver and we listen. So in terms of corporate brand, the first stage was where we defined corporate brand, and most of the work was about understanding what was corporate brand and how it was different from corporate identity, corporate strategy, corporate brand management, etc. In the next stage, we delineated corporate brand. We started looking at different dimensions like equity and behavioral, attitudinal definitions of corporate brand. We then moved to the next stage, where we got learnings from different sources, like we mentioned, tourism, hospitality, finance, strategy management, etc. And then in the last stage, we're yet to come to one final universal model of corporate brand, but we should be getting there soon. So we felt that corporate brand moves in the double diamond framework in design research. So we move to the next stage, where we look at how do companies benefit from the CSR programs in India. So what in India, in 2013, India became the first company to make it compulsory for companies to spend on corporate social responsibility. And we try and understand the impact of this and the elements of marketing, if any, in the CSR programs and how they contribute to company performance. So the Companies Act for CSR helped um, uh, made it compulsory for companies of a certain size to invest 2% of their average net profit in the last 3 years on CSR activities. And this was amended to the last financial year. The companies had not only to spend this money, they had to also talk about where they'd spent it. For example, the government had recommended these 7 schedules. So you had to spend in education or women's empowerment or addressing hunger and poverty, health, etc. So which of these schedules did you spend on, and how much was it spent on, and how did you do it in which regions? So what we did was we made a list of different elements, we studied different elements, and we carried out analysis to see its impact on companies' financial performance. So companies' financial performance, we looked at return on assets, return on capital employed, we looked at earnings per share, and we looked at Tobin's Q, which is market capitalization divided by assets. And here we looked at the impact of marketing, where we looked at, was it a film for promoting CSR? Did the company use a celebrity for CSR? And was it done under the branded house strategy, where only one brand, the corporate brand, was used to promote the CSR? And then, of course, the impact of mandated CSR, when it was introduced, did it impact the company's brand performance, company performance? Then we looked at program intensity, where we looked at what is the share of NGOs from the CSR, how much did the company give to NGOs, what is the spread across schedules, across health, education, women's empowerment, addressing hunger, etc. Across how many schedules did they spend the money, and what is the geographical spread? Was it how many states and union territories did they cover? And also, did they spend beyond the mandate? Did they spend exactly 2% of the profits, or did they spend more than that? And what we discovered was that this is how we went about it. We looked at Fortune India rankings, which comes out annually for 2024, and we took companies from that. We only covered those companies which are listed in NSE and BSE, and we excluded government, financial companies, and banks. We covered the period 2000 to 2024, and these are the different sources we looked at. So for international MNCs, we covered 84 companies for a period of 25 years, and for family-owned businesses, we looked at data for 533 companies over 25 years. So the findings were that for family-owned businesses, the observation was that introduction of mandated CSR was significant. So when mandated CSR was introduced, it supports the fact that family-owned businesses are philanthropic and altruistic. So CSR spending, when mandated CSR was introduced, it made significant impact for them. But in terms for MNCs, this did not work. In fact, it was slightly negative. And whether it was films or using celebrities or the branding strategy or how much they give to NGOs, these did not matter. So these did not matter, and they they did not impact the brand. So in terms of spend ratio for MNCs, if they spent slightly more than the mandate of 2%, it was marginally significant for the return on assets and return on capital employed. For schedules for family, it was mixed, where it was slightly significant for return on assets and return on capital employed for families. So in terms of discussion, voluntary CSR has been shown to be positive and important for company performance, but mandated CSR, once it was made compulsory, it had a lot of problems. Companies were trying to avoid it. There was a actual reduction in voluntary CSR spends, and it was seen to be not significant company performance, also associated with the higher cost in terms of cost of debt and equity. Mandated CSR therefore performs a performative function. It's good enough to just signal, especially for family-owned companies, that they are following the rules. But beyond that, actually spending more or investing in marketing does not make any impact. And there might be a benefit in advertising in the future, but currently India's advertising spends are much, much lower. And perhaps that's why India, the advertising did not make such a difference. So in terms of contributions, this was the first study to contrast performance of family versus MNC while examining mandated CSR in India. And it was the first study to look at different elements of program intensity as well as marketing elements of the CSR to financial performance. I'd like to gratefully acknowledge and thank my research advisory committee, my guide, Professor Joshi Joseph, and Professor Keyur Purani and Professor Mathu, who've been very kind and helpful and encouraging during my research process. I would also like to thank my thesis evaluation committee, Professor Srijesh, for his kind help in helping organize my defense and completing it. Thank you very much.